world. Do you know why? Because Krishna loves me. She said, because Krishna loves me, I feel supreme relevance. And nothing can change that. Neither disease, nothing anybody says or does, not even death can take that away from me. God's love. And she said, the best part of it, even though I feel so great because I have that love, I can't feel arrogant because God loves everybody. Krishna loves everybody. And that makes everything so much more beautiful in life. She was smiling. She was happy. For in her, there was no question of death. It was just a change. And she meant it. Love is the nature of the soul. The Atma, the Bhagavad Gita explains, is Nahanyate hanyamane sarire, najayate mriyate vakadach. The living force within every living being is without birth or without death. This is a universal principle. In the Bible it is said, what profiteth a person if they gain the whole world but lose their own soul? The Bhagavad Gita tells the nature of the soul. It's Satchit Ananda. You see, we are not the body and mind. We are in the body and mind. The body and mind are sacred facilities, sacred property to be used for a sacred purpose. But unless we understand who we are, we don't know what that sacred purpose really is. When we forget our own nature, what happens is we're looking for the love that is our real inheritance. Satchit Ananda. Ananda means happiness. Happiness for no reason. There's an underlying reason for that. No material reason. We don't need a material reason to be happy. When we make that connection with our true self. The Ananda is our propensity to love and the experience of being loved by the infinite love of our Creator, of our Supreme Beloved, who we call Krishna in our tradition. And that love is so sweet. And it's not subjected or conditioned by anything of this world. It's who we are. So our nature is to be happy. But when we disconnect due to the ahankar, the false ego, which is like a cloud that covers the light of the sun of our true spirit, we have to find that pleasure somewhere. The pleasure of love that the heart longs for. We have to find it somewhere. There's an emptiness. And then we look for it in things. Things like money and power and prestige and sexual pleasures and entertainment and all of these other things. And they can give us some temporary little experience of pleasure. But they don't touch the heart. As Marcy was saying, true happiness is in giving. Because giving is an expression of love. And Lord Chaitanya taught para upakar, that the highest giving is giving God's love to others. And this whole creation is facilities to express that love. Our intelligence, our abilities, our capacity to speak, to act, whatever we may have physically, they are all beautiful, wonderful instruments in which we can express the love of our heart. And when we find that love, we're so full. And there's so much happiness. We simply want to share it. Compassion is the actual foundational principle of real humanity. Selfishness, greed. For a self-realized soul, greed, envy, arrogance, they're actually symptoms of a pathetic state of poverty, inner poverty. Sometimes people are so obsessed with trying to acquire more and more and more stuff in this world that we disconnect from our real purpose. And we're like a very beautifully ornamented empty shell. And so much of the world today is promoting that consciousness. So many attractions, so much temptation, so much propaganda to further ornament that empty shell. But what Ron was saying today, the currency of love, it's not something we have to get. It's just something we have to connect with. It's who we are. In the Bhagavad Gita, there's a beautiful verse. Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhakta prayachiti taraham bhakti paritam ashnami prayatatmana. Krishna explains, one who offers me even a little water or a fruit or a flower with devotion and love, I accept it. And in the Bhagavad Purana, Krishna goes on further to say, if it's offered with love, not only do I accept it, but I'm conquered by that love. I have no God who's the father of Lakshmi, or the husband of Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. He reveals to us that I have no way to repay the love of my devotee. For a flower. When I was a little boy, on my mother's birthday one year, I think I was about 8, I tore a rose off from her garden. She only had about 6 or 7 rose plants in her garden, because we just had a little tiny backyard. She really liked to grow those roses. I guess because it took her mind off dealing with her 3 sons. I was in the middle. So she had those roses, and I just tore one off and gave it to her for her birthday. I said, happy birthday. And she knew exactly where that came from. I stole it from her. And she started to cry in joy. She put it to her nose, and she put it to her forehead, and she put it to her heart. And she said, thank you very much. It's not the thing that counts. It's the thought that counts. Little did she know she was planting the seed of bhakti in my heart when she said that. It's a principle. It's not the rose. And she used to tell me that this rose is as valuable to me as if someone gave me a diamond or pearl necklace. Because it's the love that touches my heart and gives me happiness. And later on, when I became a Swami and took lifelong vow of celibacy and no possessions, she said, "Why did you do that?" I said, "That's what you taught me." She said, "I didn't mean it that way." I said, "Well, that's the way the seed grew." In 1971, I was sitting on the bank of the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati. How many of you have been to Prayag, the place of Kumbh Mela? Marcy was telling us about Rishikesh. There's a Kumbh Mela there in Hardwar and Rishikesh. The largest one is in Prayag, where the Ganges is coming from Gangotri down, the Yamuna is coming down from the Yamunotri, and the Saraswati is coming from below. And they're traveling for thousands of miles from the peaks of the Himalayas from different directions, and they, like two lovers, embracing at Prayag. Lord Ramchandra declared this to be Prayagraj, the king of all holy places. So during Kumbh Mela, I was there a few years ago, and I was bathing in that spot, and on that day, according to the Indian government, 30 million people took their bath. And I can honestly say, when I looked around, it seemed like that many people. And during the month, 80 million people came, according to the government statistics. But that's in January. In 1971, I went at noontime in the month of May. It was probably 110 degrees, and no sane person would go to that place, because it's in the middle of nowhere. There's just fields all around. And I was sitting on the bank of the Ganges, and there was not a single person to be seen anywhere. It was really hot. And I was kind of questioning even myself, what am I doing here? I've always wanted to come here, but why now at this time? There must be some lesson for me to learn. May I tell you the lesson? It's a good lesson. Above me was a hawk, a really big hawk. And he was circling over my head. He had brown feathers, gold feathers, white feathers, and he was circling lower and lower and lower. And I saw he had a very sharp-pointed beak, and he had bright yellow eyes. He was gazing down intensely at something. And he was coming closer and closer to me until he was maybe 15 feet above my head. And I looked up and I saw his claws. They were moving like this, which means he was about to attack something. And as he was moving, coming down lower and lower, his claws were moving faster and more aggressively. And I looked around to see if there might be somebody else he might want to attack. But I was the only person. So I was praying to God. I didn't know Krishna yet, but I was praying to God. Please help me. And as I was making that prayer, like that, the hawk dove right into water, headlong, and went underwater and splashed and suddenly I saw all this agitation in the water. Something was happening underwater. It was some kind of skirmish. And a few seconds later, the hawk emerged with a fish in its claws. This was just about 10 feet in front of me. And I looked at that fish, about a foot long. And he was flapping and flapping completely, furiously, desperately. And I looked into the eyes of the fish. And that fish looked really bewildered. As the hawk took him higher and higher and higher into the forest. And I was thinking, that fish was probably spending its day like any other day, every other day. Swimming upstream, swimming downstream, across stream, probably had its family members and its friends. It was playing and looking for food. The least expected moment, that hawk just ripped it out of the water. And how that happens in so many ways to people. Crisis could strike at any moment, in so many ways. And we just go on with our life. But then I was thinking, if that fish was swimming deeper, the hawk could not reach it. Because it was in shallow water. It was vulnerable. And that's the way life is. Anandamayo Vyashat, the Brahma Sutra tells. Everyone is looking for pleasure. From the little cockroach on your kitchen counter to the big CEOs of corporations. Everyone's looking for pleasure. When our pleasure is on a superficial level, a shallow level, the level of the mind and senses only, then we're extremely vulnerable to conditions, to the hawk of fate. But when we find our fulfillment and our meaning, our purpose in life in a deep place within ourselves, nothing can disturb that. And that's what yoga, that's what true spirituality or religion is. It's to actually help us to connect to the truth of the love and the fulfillment that's within us. That's not vulnerable to the unpredictable changes of this world. And then we're really happy for no reason. Even when there's a reason to be miserable, we're happy. Like my friend. That lady, she had every reason to be unhappy, but she was happy. She was happy when circumstantially she should be miserable. But her happiness was coming from a place that was so deep within herself, nothing in the world could touch it. And that opportunity is for everyone. We don't have to be great in the sense of worldly accomplishments. In the scriptures we find so many beautiful stories of kings and simple little banana leaf sellers who have attained the same experience, the same goal. Simple living, high thinking. Actually, at our little eco-village in Mumbai area, one lady from Hollywood came last year. And she trains movie actors and actresses and television actors and actresses, and she's an actress herself, an accomplished lady. And she came with a very well-known person. And we were walking around, and suddenly she just disappeared. And I was wondering where she was, and then I saw her. There was a simple little village girl who didn't speak a word of English, who lives at our eco-village with her family. And she was going behind the cows, and with her bare hands, picking up the cow dung and putting it in a little basket. And this Hollywood lady was asking her to teach her how to do it. So this little village girl is teaching her how to pick up cow dung. It's all nice and warm and soft. And she didn't even have gloves on. She was picking it up. And then, so I thought, that's really quite special, actually. And she looked so happy. So I didn't interfere. And a few minutes later, the village lady was teaching her how to make cow dung patties by mixing it with straw and making it patties and sticking it on a wall. She was doing that. And then she called us over and wanted us to take photos of her with their cow dung patties on the wall, like posing. And I said, why don't you put your handprint in one of them to make it more personal? And she did. And she said, this is more meaningful and fulfilling than having my handprint on a star in the, what is that, Hollywood, near that Chinese restaurant? Yeah. She said, this is more meaningful than that. She said it was just the simplicity of that was it was the happiest moment of her life, she said. Simple living, high thinking. You could be a billionaire, you could be a millionaire, or you could be a little lady picking up cow dung and have a perfect life of simple living, high thinking. Because simple living, high thinking is not about what you have or don't have. It's about our heart. It's about to have a simple, loving, well-wishing heart. And if you have a simple, loving, well-wishing heart, if you're just picking up some cow dung, or if you're running international corporations and going through all those challenges, a simple, well-wishing heart is, nothing is mine. I'm a caretaker. This is the principle of Bhagavad Gita. Our husband, our wife, it's not my husband or my wife. It is on another level. But more importantly, this lady is God's beloved daughter entrusted in my care. This man is God's beloved son entrusted in my care. And to honor and respect that person in that way is Dharma. That's a higher principle than just I and mine. And children, these are God's beloved little children. They're not my children, they're Krishna's children. Entrusted in my care, what a responsibility I have to nourish that child, that husband, that wife's body, mind, and soul. to live with compassion, to live with respect. Vidyavanaya Sampane Brahmane Kavihastini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarsha. True wisdom is to see everyone with equal vision, in the sense that everyone is a part of the beloved. Everyone is a child of God, and everything is the property of God. And what we have a responsibility of how we use it. And when we understand people and things in this spirit, that life is really meaningful, really fulfilling, and we're actually liberated from all the greed and all the envy that just like burns in our heart. And we become fearless. Because in every situation we have everything to gain and nothing to lose. That's love, expressed with compassion. You have to be humble to be grateful. And if we're not grateful, we can never be happy with anything. We can never understand anything's true value unless we have a grateful heart. And it's that humility and gratitude that is like a fertile soil of the heart in which the seed of love can really grow. There's a beautiful analogy, and I'll end here because I might be speaking too much. Can I tell you the analogy? I really like it. How many of you have ever seen a blue lotus flower? There's pink ones and there's white ones, but blue ones are really rare. But in the Vedic literatures, there's a description of the nature of a blue lotus flower. It remains in, what is it called? A bud. It doesn't blossom unless the rays of a full moon touch it at night. And when the rays of the full moon touch the blue lotus, it fully blossoms. And it's considered the symbol of the highest beauty in the whole creation. And it has an ambrosial, nectarine fragrance that it spreads in all directions. That bud is compared to our hearts, our souls, but they're closed. The moonlight, the moon is considered to be God or Krishna. And the moonbeams are Krishna's grace. When we are touched by that grace, which is Krishna's love, when we are touched by Krishna's love, our souls blossom. And when they blossom in reciprocation to the love we receive. But the beautiful thing is, everyone around, everyone can enjoy the beauty, and everyone can enjoy the fragrance. When a young lady puts on perfume to meet her loved one, everyone she meets or goes near gets to enjoy that perfume. So similarly, when our love for God awakens, when we're touched by that grace, then it spreads to give happiness, to pleasure, enlightenment for everyone. And it's true. In giving, we receive. This chanting of God's names is like that moonlight. It's grace, it's divine grace that's descending into this world. And when with a humble, grateful, and sincere heart, it's touched by this beautiful mantras, gradually the lotus of our heart blossoms, and the fragrance of compassion and love spreads to everyone. Thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Mommy, do we love you?
Thank you. Beautiful.
Wanted to know how a person could have the same love as the gopis.
The same love as the gopis? That's a really esoteric question. That's a beautiful question. The gopis are simple little cowherd girls. They don't have material wealth. They milk cows. They cook. They make cow dung patties. They're just simple village girls, the gopis. But yet, the greatest acharyas, yogis, they exalt the gopis as being in the highest level of yoga and self-realization. Shukadeva Goswami, he was so exalted. He is the son of Vyasadeva, the compiler of all the Vedas. When Parikshit Maharaj, we were speaking last night at Damodar Reddyji's house, when Parikshit Maharaj had gone to the bank of the Ganges for the last 7 days of his life to hear about Krishna and his various incarnations, the greatest sages and rishis from all over the universe assembled. And they were all trying to decide who was the most qualified to speak. It was Narada, Vyas, Valmiki, Vishwamitra, Parasara, Vashishta. They unanimously chose Shukadeva, who was only 16 years old, because he was completely self-realized. He had a completely pure, loving heart. And he was totally detached from anything of this world. And he spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, about 18,000 verses. And the culmination is the love of the gopis for Krishna, specifically Sri Radha. He exalted the gopis as the greatest renunciates. And in my tradition, when you take sannyas or become a swami, which means you give up family, you give up a little family to make the whole world your family. You give up material wealth to try to gain the inner spiritual wealth, and then use your whole life to share it. But we're taught at that time, at the initiation, to chant a beautiful mantra in which we try to follow in the footprints of the gopis. They're the most exalted. Krishna told the gopis in the Bhagavad Purana that your love for me has totally conquered me. I have no way to repay you. Even with all my wealth, and Krishna is the owner of everything that exists. Aham sarvasya prabhuvam mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante man buddha bhava samana. Krishna tells in Gita, I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. Krishna says, even all the wealth of the entire creation for an entire lifespan of Lord Brahma, even if I were to give you that, it could not possibly compensate what you're giving me. Just their simple hearts. That's the power of love. So how to become like the gopis? By valuing that most simple of all simple things, the love of our own hearts, and giving it the highest value, and excavating it. By following in their footsteps. We could follow in their footsteps whether we're farmers, or whether we're prime ministers or presidents, or software engineers, or authors, or swamis, or corporate people. Everyone can follow in the footsteps. By just trying to really always remember the beauty and the sweetness and the love of Krishna. In the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a beautiful